Hi there and welcome to John Broons, the Family Business Guy. Today my special guest is Ben Hondemer from Hicon Engineering, Hicon Hydraulics, and they're a family business based in Welshpool here in WA. And Ben I've known for a while, so I'm really happy to have Ben along with me. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks, John. Welcome.
Ben, give us a little bit of your history. How did you end up in family business and to get you to where we are today?
Oh, that's a long story. I think my first job with Dad, because he started in a van and then it grew to our back shed. It was about 120 square metres. My first job with him was pouring sand in a sandblasting machine, and I was about 6 or 7 at the time. So that's my first job with him. How did we get there? After that, he grew a bit, and it was in the backyard for about nearly 7 or 8 years. And then he went to a small shed. Didn't have much to do with it during my childhood after he left from the family home, or from the back shed. And he grew to about 10 people. And I came on board probably year 9. I remember on one of the school holidays, I thought I'd do some spray painting and a bit of packing and cleaning of bolts, and that was good fun, but I wasn't too interested. I thought I'd be a racing driver or a rally car driver, but that didn't turn out. I didn't graduate from high school, mainly because of English, but I was pretty good at math and physics. So I then had a stint at Coles, and because I didn't know what to do, and I was trying to find what to do. Dad then had an application for an apprentice, because his apprentice disappeared one day, and I said, "Oh, why don't I be apprentice?" And he said, "No, you're no good." So fortunately for me, a guy broke his leg. He was a TA, and he said, "Well, there's a TA job. Let's see if you can prove yourself." So I did the TA job and said, "How about this apprenticeship? I think it would be a good idea." I remember him saying, No, you've got no track record." So, which was fair enough. I was a bit of a airy-fairy thinker and didn't have any focus. Just had all these dreams and ideas. And then, so the apprenticeship came up. I had to get tested, and there was 3 applicants, and I got the better score of the 3. And so he gave me a shot. Of course, my probation started again. So that was turned into an 8 or 9 month probation. And at that time, I thought the only thing I wanted to do was do something well, and that was be a good apprentice fitter machinist and do well at a trade. I had no other plans, just focus on the task at hand, which was be a good fitter.
So how many other siblings have you got?
That's, from the oldest of 10 kids. So there's 3 boys and 7 girls over about a 17-year period.
Okay, so you've come into the business, you've done your apprenticeship, you're a TA, or you've come in as an apprentice, and you're working as an apprentice.
Yeah.
Your aim is to be the best at what you're doing.
Well, first, the aim was to finish the apprenticeship.
Okay.
I think the aim to be better at what I was in the 3rd or 4th year.
Okay. Were there any other siblings in the business?
Not at the time, no.
Okay.
I left, I did my apprenticeship, and then I gave back 2 years, and then I left the business. And about that time, that's when Dad was thinking of maybe passing it on or selling it, or he was going through many options in his head what to do with it. So we went to family business school to try and work out what we had and what we were going to do with it. And that's where we had my other brothers came in also and did an apprenticeship. So
all three of you, all 3 boys, have done an apprenticeship inside the family's business?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened? Did you go out to work outside? I mean, you've only known the one place of work.
Oh, well, yeah. the idea was you do your apprenticeship in maybe a year, and then you go out in the open world, get some other skills, and then you could come back. So that was sort of some of the succession plan we'd thought up.
So was it you must come back, or you can if you want to?
You can come back, and if you do come back, these are the criteria that you have to fulfil, like an earn-in period, skills competency, and if that's what you want to do, you can come back and still be a fitter, but you might not have ownership or a higher ownership percentage.
Okay.
So
you went out, worked outside for a while.
That's right.
Came back to the firm.
Yes.
Did you choose to come back, or did Dad ring you?
A bit of both. 2008, 2009 was GFC, the current company I was at. I was working designing hydraulic systems for drill rigs, and the nickel price went down, and then it cascaded from that, and we went from 140 people down to 25, and then I bailed out like rats leaving the ship, and went off to uni and TAFE for a bit. And then after a guy put a sledgehammer through the radio, Dad rang me and said, "Oh, what can we do?"
So something happened at work, and Dad thought, "Okay, I need somebody that's a little bit more level-headed."
I don't think he thought like that. He said I could utilise this guy's skills.
Okay, so you had improved your skills.
Yeah.
And you had something to offer the family business.
Yeah.
As an employee.
As an employee. Yeah.
Okay, let's move a little bit further on. Coming to the time where the business is doing well, it's a successful business, and Dad wants to transition the business. He could sell it, he could hand it on. What direction? I know the direction he went in. He's spoken to you about transitioning. How did that transitioning evolve?
A lot of Thursday nights at Dome, and a lot of Saturday mornings meeting and discussing things, because we didn't know what to do. We had some ideas of what should happen, but we didn't know how to implement it, and that's where we had a family business guy who then we left, and we then found this guy called Just Ask John, and we involved his services and simply put things in place how we saw it to be. That involved many more Saturday mornings and Thursday nights at Dome, and trying to work out what we were going to do.
So the evolution of that exercise was that Dad had come to an agreement with you and your two brothers that there was a process you were going to embark on, that there was going to be ownership of you and your brothers. If you ticked these boxes at the end of this period, you had the opportunity to buy in or buy the business.
Yeah, so the overall idea Dad had was he was going to gift it away to us, a third each. That was the what shall we say? That was the wish and dream, and that was a fantastic wish and dream. It didn't turn out like that, but that was the dream. We would all earn in a certain percentage, and then it would transfer across, and he would retire. But people and life and skill sets.
So what's changed? What does it look like now?
It looks like now that I earned in a certain period and then bought the remaining shares off, or 50% of the shares, and then now sole owner.
So over a period of years, with you and your brothers working in the business, at certain points in time, they've put their hand up and said, "No, we're not interested in buying in"?
Early on, going through the process, one of my brothers said, "No, he doesn't want a part of that. He's happy just to come in and do his, 9-10 hours a day, and that's it, no more stress." And that was great, fantastic. Another brother wanted in, but didn't want to go through the process as we'd set it out, so he had to be moved on.
Okay. So it evolved that you were the long-term stayer. You proved to your dad that you had the capacity to do it. You followed the rules. Dad agreed to the rules, and Dad and you came to the negotiation point where you've bought the business from him.
Yeah, or effectively off Mum and Dad, yeah.
Okay, from Mum and Dad. Beautiful. So now you own the business.
Yes.
Okay. If I was to ask you about challenges, both working in the business with your brothers and Dad, and challenges about buying the business from Mum and Dad, what were some of the challenges that you had in your mind?
I think I was comparing myself to what should happen, so Dad and I had a high work ethic and high level of conscientiousness. So we would put in a lot of effort, and we'd want to see other people do the same. So we measured other people, family members, to our own standard. So that was a challenge. Negotiating with the family, and that was also a challenge. Trying to just be brothers and sisters. The easier bit was quantifying the price to pay and the transfer out of a trust into a company. That was quite logical and fairly simple, but the getting to that point was very challenging. Yeah, many late nights and thinking, and that was a challenge.
Did you use the same advisors that your dad and Mum used? Was it the same accountant that worked for both of you? The same lawyers that did contracts?
It was, yeah, it was. And that could, I don't think that's a good idea. I think if you're going to buy a business, find your own advice. That's a good bit of advice. One that you're comfortable with, and also probably get some education around business, and that's another bit of advice.
Okay. So challenges now that you've bought the business, what sort of challenges have you had? You've now owned the business 3, 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years. So you've been in 100% control. Challenges of being a sole owner,
yeah.
From being an employee one day to being an owner the next.
Yeah, so when for a period of time before I bought the remaining shares, I was part owner with Dad, and that wasn't really a legal ownership. It was just you own half, so I got 50% of the benefits. When I bought the business, or the remaining 50%, effectively I bought the trading name and the stock and inventory and some goodwill, and put into a company and set it up a lot differently. So it was a lot simpler to do your tax and see what you were doing. When I first set it up, I didn't act like an owner, I acted like an employee, which created some problems. I mean, I know this in hindsight, but I didn't set it up correctly, and that caused a bit of pain. I had a general manager who I thought should run the business. I was going to be an owner just to receive some cash, which didn't happen for the first 3 years. And I also had a position of workshop manager, so I just did workshop managing. And
so from a hierarchy point of view, you were nowhere near top of the tree. The GM was top of the tree, who was setting strategy and however running the operations,
yeah.
Or decision making, and you were the workshop manager under him, and there was administration and
yeah, that's right, yeah.
So you worked for somebody else even though you owned the business?
That's exactly how it sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise that until 2 years in. Yeah.
We all learn lessons, and we all learn differently.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 years has gone. You've worked out that now there's some change going to happen. What does it look like? What happened then, and how did it transition?
Well, two things happened. One, through concentrated effort in the workshop manager's role, I found a lot of new work, and that gave us a lot more jobs to repair. And the business being small at the time ran very well. And then I put all this extra work through, and we didn't adjust any systems or processes. So things had to change, and I did the Curtin Growth Owner course, which was great, and then I did a company director's course, and the two combined started to make me wake up a bit of what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong, and what systems should we have, what people should we have, and a better hierarchy. And then after that I started pushing for change, and ultimately it led to me changing my role.
I think the biggest thing that I'm hearing is you're willing to change.
Yeah, well...
So you yourself has gone through huge change in 10 years.
Yeah, since more so in the last 4 years, but previous to that, yeah, I was a bit of a bum, and then got something focused, and then it continually improved. I like that idea of always increasing your skill level or learning, or making a mistake and then doing something different because of that. Try not to make the same mistakes twice.
It's a good plan.
Doesn't always work.
No. So plans for the future? You're going to keep doing what you're doing?
No, definitely not. Because last year was a very difficult time personally, and for my wife and me, and I was and the business people. They had to put up with a pretty angry Ben. So last year I did a workshop manager's job. I did the owner's job, setting strategy. I did the also costing part of it, and tried to keep up production. So I was also on the floor helping guys build jobs, and that wasn't very healthy, but it had to be done. I couldn't see. I then asked for some help, so I learnt how to ask for help. I knew I needed it, I just didn't know how to ask, and we set up a better structure. So basically I went at the top and said this is what's got to happen, and people have to do that. And I hired a workshop manager, which has been a life changer, and I've got a commercial manager, and so far so good. So
okay, and the family life is now,
it's better, a lot
place.
better. Yeah, as long as I'm home for dinner, and I'm not out till midnight or working, then that's a lot better.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground because it's not a short time frame we're talking. We've gone from a young man as an apprentice we didn't talk about it, but single, who's learning a trade, goes outside, finding his place in the world, comes back into the business, conversations with dad, mum, ending up buying the business, not having your brothers buying the business with you, taking on the responsibility and learning all of the time about how to make decisions.
Yeah.
Where do you see it in the future?
The business?
The business.
I think...
Let's not leave it so big. Let's say in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, I've identified we probably need another 3 staff members. So I think around the 25 people would be good. I don't see it growing bigger than that. It'll be a lot less. We've sort of focused more on one thing than trying to do everything. So we do a few things really well. That's pump repair for these big excavators, and that's what we're focused on. There's a bit of distribution side to it as well, but as I learnt over the weekend, that's a different business. So yeah, I think it'll be a supplement to life than being my life. which is what it's been up until last year, well, early this year. Yeah.
So you mentioned a few tips earlier on, little things that you've learned along the way. Is there one big thing that you've learned, or maybe 3 or 4 things you'd like to share? Because there's so much that you've learned. Somebody else going through a similar situation, buying a business from Dad, what would be some of the things?
Oh, self-education. You have to. Not only to improve yourself, but know what's going on, so you make an actual informed decision rather than just taking advice of someone else. You actually can back it up. So self-education, you can do a proper course, or you can do read a lot. Yeah, so read some books, talk to a good accountant, one that isn't just working for someone else, that actually can help you. That's a good idea. Set your business up right. That's a good point. And don't be a technician. If you try to run a business as a pure technician, then the wheels will fall off.
Great. I think there's some really wonderful gems in this conversation. I want to thank you very much for coming along, and wish you all the very best, because I see somebody who's on a wonderful journey. So Ben, thanks very much for coming along, and thanks for sharing with us. This has been today John Broons, the family business guy, talking on the Family Business Show with Ben Hondemer of Highcon Hydraulics, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget, click on the subscribe button, and if you'd like to communicate with me, have some questions, call me. My number is on my website, and my email is john@johnbroons.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Family business, and I've been through it myself. Do you think it's because you always kind of had Dad at the helm almost, that, I just replace someone at the helm and I just carry on the same?
I think that's a good point. Possibly. I think the direction we had was, the skill set was around the workshop and the technical expertise, and we didn't want to pull that off and have it remote ivory tower type. So we said, no, let's keep the expertise there, because that's what pays the bills, and someone else can do the paperwork, roughly speaking.
John, same question. Do you find this in family businesses? Sons and daughters are stepping in, but they're the ones with this technical expertise, so they feel comfortable even though they've got ownership, remaining there and then appointing someone that kind of does that overarching role.
Okay, this is generalising.
Yeah, very general.
Okay. And there's 2 parts, there's 2 ways you can go. One is the family deciding to plan the transition. Therefore, there may be the education, whether it's sales, management courses that you might want to go and do, or have the younger generation do, before they take on the leadership role. So this is all pre-discussed, pre-planned, everybody goes along that journey. That's one way of doing it. Then there's the other way, which is, you're going to buy the business off me, and we'll just, it's almost playing it by ear. There's an expectation from the owner who's selling and the next generation that steps up that, oh yes, it's all just going to be simple and it's all going to run through. But there's no feedback loop in there. In Ben's case, there's a feedback loop because Dad was involved in finance and there was a board structure in place. So there was a bit of planning that had gone through, and although it wasn't perfect, there were lessons that Ben was learning that he had to learn.
So Ben, if someone was say you could wind back the clock now, as well as being a technician, and someone was saying, hey Ben, I'm in your position, what would you advise? What would you be saying to that young person before they took over the family business?
Uh, well, if we go back a bit, we also had a big growth period after I bought the business. So the setup would have worked fine if we'd stayed at the size, and now we're triple what we were. So so there was multiple problems presented at once. I'd say to them, are you a technical guy, and is that what you want to do in case, if that's yes, if they're an engineer or found themselves in a technical spot, that's great, get a good commercial guy to help you on the back end. But at the end of the day, you're the captain of the ship and you need to steer it, and you can't blame anyone else. So, and that's what I learnt. Yeah, that's what I've put on my whiteboard, step up and take responsibility, and I'm calling the shots. I've got the technical background, but now I've translated that to processes, so a lot better processes.
Do you think that there's a growth period there, because that is a big jump and that is a big step, that there's almost a confidence barrier that needs to be breached to go, you know what, I can step into this role? Did you go through any emotions when you were stepping into it, like challenges along that?
Yes, I did actually. I thought, oh, who's this fraud? Me trying to do this. But I backed it up with the technical. If I could learn that, and I've learnt lots, then I'm going to give it a crack and step up. Yeah, so there was a confidence issue when I first bought the business. Is this right? Is that right? We're not best practice here. We don't have that certification. I'm not sure we'll win that work. But yeah, proof's in the pudding. So just give it a go.
It's actually, it's been, from my perspective, because I've been outside, to see the growth journey that Ben's been on, the growth that has been there, the potential for growth that most people don't see. Moving in from one generation to in some cases replace the previous generation, they don't go looking. The younger generations have a lot of opinion and ways we can grow, but it's not always followed up with logic or process. Ben was a man on the ground. He was actually seeing things with open eyes, visiting his clients, and he was seeing opportunities that were missed by other people.
So, if I'm listening to you both, you had this great, even though it may have been a disadvantage not being in that, you hadn't done the management side of it, we had a great advantage of being a technician. So the young guy now was just only involved in like maybe doing the accounts and maybe doing the bookkeeping and maybe that side of it. Would you be saying to that young man or woman, hey guys, you really need to get out and see customers, you need to get some technical expertise behind you to back it up? Do you think that gave you a good advantage?
Ooh, being a good technician. Yeah. It did initially, and you could continue in that way for forever, but your business wouldn't grow, and you'd kill yourself because through sheer work, because you can't do everything. You can only do a few things very well. So yeah, hone your skills, but at some point you're going to have to either say, I'm going to be the technician and hire someone else to run things, or step out of that role and run it yourself.
Because John, when you took over your family business, you went through a process where you were trained in different things. Even the accountant trained you in things as you were going through. My
early journey was different to Ben's. I was straight into stacking timber. I was cleaning up houses. I was given the lowest of the low jobs. And
a bit like Ben's apprenticeship.
Very much the Ben's apprenticeship. It was never an apprentice. I just went straight into the business, and I was put wherever there was a gap, and generally it was at the bottom end. Over the years I was given responsibility. There was a division, a new division that my father had purchased the business, and I was sent across, oh well, you go over and learn that. It was an engineering style business in prefabrication. So I had to learn that and run that. And then over time, I stepped up and took a director's position on the family's board. I was still a director in title, but I was still little Johnny doing what he had to do to keep the business ticking over. And it wasn't until my father passed that I actually stepped into a role of responsibility.
It resonates, the two stories resonate, and I see Ben smiling there, yeah, we just did what we were told to do by Dad. But one thing that I picked up from both of you both took directorship responsibilities, and Ben, you even went and got formal qualifications in this area. Do you think that is needed in today's business environment, that people stepping into their family business do need to get some formal training or in support groups?
Yes. I think you need to self-educate. If you want to be, you don't have to be a master of everything, you just be across everything. So you know when things could or would go wrong, you've got an idea. I can't press that far enough, self-educate. And that might be in your technical field or in management or accounting. But the two courses, the Curtin Growth Owner and the Institute of Company Directors, that was really good. Good overview. And then you can either specialise in that field or call them in.
Wow. John, your opinion on this for successful generational transitions in this day and age? Are these formal qualifications needed?
So formal qualifications are great validation that you actually have been able to study and that you've reached a degree of competence that, yes, I've achieved something. It's great for self-esteem. I've been able to complete something. Some people need it, some people don't. From my point of view, in days gone by, it wasn't necessary. I think in today's society, it's harder for anybody that doesn't have some qualifications, some skills in their field that you've actually chosen to follow through on. So the courses Ben has done are incredibly appropriate courses for him.
Yeah, so I'm not degree qualified, it was just some courses that I'm trade qualified, and I learnt from there.
It's absolutely stunning. So I'm going to leave with, I'm conscious both your time, with my last favourite question. I'm a young person about to take over the family business. Both of you, what's your number one piece of advice for me?
Oh, give it a go.
Be clear on the goal, why you're doing it, what you want to achieve.